Chad, we've got the top 4 of this tournament. Blue Purple Luffy, once heralded as the best deck in format, has definitely fallen off the totem pole a little bit, but still, especially if you watched my tier list video the other day, is still a very good deck within this format. He is going to be facing the Mihawk, though. Speak of the devil. Dracule Mihawk, one of the brand new leaders within the format, has definitely been upped as one of the best decks in the game heading into these championships and heading into this tournament. It's going to be interesting, especially with the proactive resting that this leader can do and having the ability to rest his own characters for additional effects to see if he's going to be able to pull out the win against Luffy. Luffy's going to have to depend on those 8,000 power promo Rogers, and we'll see if he can do it. Mihawk has an interesting hand right now. We see a Kid Killer Searcher in this hand, but on top of that, chat, we've got the 5-cost Perona, which is a nice 5-cost that we've seen a lot of times in the deck. The Coffin Bow, which is a great card to be able to get going on your effects. And on top of that, it has the 1-cost event, 1-cost green event that I'm currently looking up the name right now. I think it's the All Out, if we're going to go all out, something of the sort. I'll tell you the effect here in a second. The Luffy has a little bit of ramping right in the Zorojuro and also the It's to Die For. Also got the 5-cost Nami and a 2K Sanji and a Gum Gum Giant. Chat, the event in Luffy's hand, in Mihawk's hand, the event in Mihawk's hand, I know you're strong, so I'll go all out from the very start. On main, if you rest 2 of your Dawn cards, up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters with the cost of 7 or less will not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase, and as a counter 3K event. Listen, if you've seen my videos or you've maybe seen me at an event, I love Nengarden playmats. And especially with Black Friday, now is an insane time to get your very own playmat. Or maybe a gift for somebody else. All of the standard playmats are going to be cut at a discount. And not only that, you've got stickers, pins, apparel, that's also going to be discounted on the website. And these discounts are already so good, and you know I've got a code there for a discount of your own, but it's actually been bumped up to 10% to help you save even more on this Black Friday. Make sure to stack up the savings and get a great gift for either yourself or somebody else this holiday season. The link to Nengarden's website where you can get your next favorite TCG product is in the description below. Thank you so much to Nengarden for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to that video. Mihawk going first in this one is probably going to play the Coffin Boat. And so with that one now here in this game is going to get the Coffin Boat out onto the field. Draw 1 card because your leader is Dracule Mihawk, passing off the turn, the end of turn, restanding the 1 Dawn. I think drew the Kiku Nojo for turn, or off of the Coffin Boat. Luffy not having anything on the 2 Dawn is going to go ahead probably and play Kid Killer out onto the field. Kid Killer being able to find supernovas, maybe is running a supernova kind of package. A lot of supernovas do have the slash attribute, so may work well within this deck. Has made him top 4 in this championship so far. Starts out with the 6K swing, counters out with the Sanji, countering out early, and the Kid Killer going in. The Kid Killer moving in. We'll see what he grabs. Law and Beppo being a supernova kind of card, as well as the Stun Bonnie. I was really curious to see heading into this championship if people would play Stun Bonnie heading into this format, whether it's the green Bonnie deck, whether it's Dracule Mihawk, Zoro. Stun Bonnie is such a nice card to be able to knock people off from curve, if you've heard me talk about it on this channel in previous videos. Right, especially against Blue Purple Luffy. If you've ever played Green Yellow Law, Green Yellow Law excels in the Blue Purple Luffy matchup because of this card being able to knock your opponent off curve and be able to force your opponent to take back a turn, essentially. And so even though not a slash type character, Bonnie going to be joining the fray here in the next couple turns. So now drawing for turn. I think finding another Zorojuro. Could play the Zorojuro out onto the field and try to ramp in the next turn. Maybe do a double ramp kind of deal as the Mihawk will hit 5 and maybe do the stun Bonnie as we just saw revealed. And so starts out 6,000 power at lead. Does have some counter events to be able to utilize. If that is a Kiku Nojo at the end of the hand, does have a 2K to get out, but with one Dawn open, has plenty of opportunities. But is going to go ahead and take it, go down to 4. So now the Zorojuro coming out onto the field. Zorojuro, not necessarily a card right now that is going to ramp, but because next turn when he swings, Luffy is going to be at 3 or less life, is going to be able to ramp one Dawn as active. And is going to actually play Perona instead. The new Perona that came out in the OP14 format is such a nice card, right? To be able to stun 5 costs or less, not allowing this Zoro to actually swing. This Zorojuro not going to be able to swing as this 8,000 power swing connects, and with one Dawn as active, pass off the turn. Not a stun Bonnie, but does have a way to stop the Luffy from ramping with Zorojuro. It's to die for, though, because the Perona is a 6,000 power character, is going to be going ahead and ramping to Dawn, though. So the deterrent of the ramping is not going to go exactly as planned, but Luffy now at 6 is going to be able to go to 8 and use leader effect in the next turn. Starts out with the 6,000 power swing. Just needs a 2K to get out of this. Does have 1 in hand, but decides to go down to 3. Yet again, finds a 6-cost Trafalgar Law. So a very interesting deck list, in my opinion, of this Dracule Mihawk. Now with the It's to Die For, because there's a 6,000 power character on the opponent's side of the field, is going to be able to ramp 2. And with the rest of the Dawn, goes ahead with Nami, trying to filter out the hand a little bit, maybe trying to stack the deck or get rid of some of these cards that you do not need. 9-cost Sanji going to be really nice in the next turn, whether or not the Dracule Mihawk decides to stun one of the Dawn. I don't know. A lot of blue-purple Luffys have dropped Dracule Mihawk, the 9-cost. They might play him even again, but I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. So is going to leave those 2 cards on the top. I think a Gum Gum Giant and something else. Other potential event. Dracule Mihawk now going into this turn, hitting, quick math, 7 Dawn. Right now, 7 Dawn does not have a Shanks to utilize. Could go ahead with the 6-cost Trafalgar Law and play down on the field another 5 costs like a Perona, like a Stun Bonnie, to be able to flood the board with these small swings. Try to net some of these Gum Gum Giants out of hand or something of the sort. Is going to go ahead and play that Trafalgar Law. The 6-cost blocker from OP13, not a card that we've seen a lot of Mihawks play, is going to go ahead, pick up the Kid Killer and play down the Perona. The Perona has to be rested. The card that you play off of the Law does have to be rested, and so is going to force the Nami and the Zorojuro to not be rested until your opponent's end of the next turn. So Nami cannot block, Zorojuro cannot ramp, and now attaching 1 Dawn is going to swing 7,000 power with the Perona. So a 2K counter getting out of that swing. Dracule Mihawk now using leader effect to rest the Coffin Boat and restand 3 Dawn. Now swinging 8 is going to go ahead, net 1 more life to put into the hand. Going to be a Gum Gum Giant and 1 Dawn left active at the end of turn through the Coffin Boat. Luffy now goes through with his leader effect. And so does find a Roger. Roger going to be very important in this matchup and more than likely going to be played off of this 9-cost Sanji, right? Giving plus 2,000 power to the Luffy, right? Because you are going to be at 10 Dawn. Is going to go ahead, grab Gum Gum Giant instead of Gear 2. So is thinking about drawing for turn the 3-cost It's to Die For event. So now drawing for turn, we're going to see the strength of UP Luffy at this point, immediately resting 9, wasting no time to play this SP Sanji and get out Roger. Plus 2,000 power for the Luffy because you're at 10 Dawn. Luffy is now going to be an 8,000 power leader through your opponent's next turn. I think now swinging at leader, I think I heard this 8,000 power swing. Sanji and Roger, a winning combo for this deck, and what it's really come down to at this point, in my opinion. So still with 1 Dawn open and several cards in hand, does have a couple 2Ks, does have a counter event, a couple counter events to be honest, to be able to work around. Could be even a situation where we see maybe Dead Man's Game in the next turn, resting for Dawn and then going ahead and utilizing leader effect to restand 3 of those Dawn. So is going to pass after taking the life. Everything stood as active. 1 Dawn left up for potentially a Gum Gum Giant, sitting now at 9 Dawn. If you go ahead and use your leader effect, though, the Dracule Mihawk does state on the leader after leader effect that you cannot play a character card from your hand during the turn. So would have to only stick to things like events and of the sort. So maybe if you're going to play a character, play it first before you go in. But if you do play a character and then maybe try to use Dead Man's Game or something, might not be able to swing with any of these characters, or maybe one of these characters at most, because Luffy being at an 8,000 power leader. Definitely Luffy being able to turn by turn by turn by turn, being 8,000 power through your opponent's turn has made it a reason why this deck has continued to exist within this format if you've watched the last couple championships that we've talked about on this channel. And so ends up going with a Kid Killer first to be able to search. Looking at that top 5 for a Supernova. Can't grab the Tashigi and ends up whiffing. That's the thing about this style of deck. You have you have less cards that you can grab off of searches like Kid and Killer. You're more likely to whiff on the searches. You see the player's face on that UP Luffy. He was like, oh, okay. Kid and Killer, though, on the opponent's attack is going to be able to set 1 Dawn up as active. Going to go with the Perona to once again stun some of these characters. Nami and Zorojuro not going to be able to block or ramp, and especially potentially after leader effect, you've still got some Dawn to be able to utilize to be able to swing if you want. So the Coffin Boat restanding 3 Dawn after being rested off of leader effect. 5 Dawn left as active. Cannot play any more characters down, but could redistribute this Dawn a little bit to be able to swing. You may want to leave some Dawn open, though, in case potentially the swings start coming at face. The Perona's 6,000 power base only. 2 Dawn is going to be used on them to make them 8,000 power. So we're going to try to fetch a card out of this Luffy's hand. A 1K Zorojuro gets out of that a perfect card to utilize. And it looks like we're committing 2 more Dawn to get another swing maybe with Perona. Is maybe trying to get a 2K out of hand. Right now he's trying to fetch for the Gum Gum Giants in the sort. And now the 9,000 power swing is going to be used. Resting 1 Dawn for Gum Gum Giant is going to pitch the It's to Die for, putting 2 Dawn back in, drawing 2 cards. We'll see what 2 he draws. Bon Clay and the Gear 2, we know those were in the top. Now goes off into his turn after Mihawk passes with 1 Dawn open. Finds another Roger promo, so going to be another turn as he's likely going to draw this Roger for turn and immediately play it onto the field for a second consecutive turn at being at 8,000 power. So is going to go for the Uso Hachiya 2K in the hand. Now going in, the Nami and the Zorojuro still can't be rested at this point, but that might not matter for this Luffy. Plenty of counter events in the hand. Is going to immediately rest 8, like I mentioned, for that Roger and get the loop once again. We see the Mihawk player laughing, saying, of course, yes, yes. Now an 8,000 power swing at lead, I think it is. And with the Sanji and the Roger, that's a 9 and 10,000 power swing coming in as well. Especially with Mihawk, right? Some of these events, if you don't have the new event, Surpass Me Roronoa Zoro, not going to be able to get plus 4,000 power. So going to have to give up multiple cards. Goes with the Luffy event and a 1K to get out of the swing to 9,000 power. So now the 9,000 power swing with Sanji going at lead. Now that you've taken this last life, Trafalgar Law is a blocker at this point. Trafalgar Law from OP13, that's 6 costs on the field, having the condition if you're at 1 or less life, becoming a blocker. And Luffy, after this 10,000 power swing, probably just going to pass off the turn, leaving 2 Dawn as active. We'll see if he decides to try to utilize these Dead Man's Game to try to go for game at this point. The last swing he has to worry about is thinking about blocking right here. So is going to go ahead, block, pass off the turn. So now at a full 10 Dawn, still has some Pironas to swing with. Got Dead Man's Game and a leader effect to be able to restand Dawn. You could rest the 2 Dawn. Top deck something pretty good. I don't know what it was. It looks like Law and Beppo. So Law and Beppo would be able to put you to be a 7,000 power leader, right? And you can proactively rest and force something not to swing, like that active 10 cost Roger on the field. And so we'll see how he decides to play this. Is going to go ahead, play the Law and Beppo. Law and Beppo going to be freezing the rested 10 cost Roger. So is not going to be restood as active and swing at him in the next turn. Now using leader effect to restand the 3 Dawn. Is going to be a 7,000 power leader. Probably wants to leave some up as active, right, for your counter events, especially because you know a Sanji and a Roger is going to swing at least at you, but no, attaches all 3 and goes in. Being a 10,000 power swing, swinging at leader, it sounds like. So a 10,000 power swing at lead is just going to be a simple Gum Gum Giant to get out. There's no more Dawn that's active, so you know the Pirona's not going to be able to swing at you. Has many ways to counter out of this. But how many counter cards does the Mihawk have in hand? Still have to hit twice to be able to get game at this point. Could go ahead with Gear 2 potentially to get out of this swing. Would put you at 11,000 power and be able to keep the cards in your hand. Is going to go exactly that. So restanding 1 Dawn with your Coffin Boat at the end of turn. Luffy now going in, going to use his leader effect. Does not find another Roger, but does play the 9 cost Dracule Mihawk in this deck. We saw in OP13, a lot of these Luffy decks took out the Dracule Mihawk from the list. But now with the format shifting and Emu becoming less and less prevalent and right not being in this top 4, Luffy playing it once again. The other match in the feature is Doflamingo versus Ace. So probably going to be Ace, to be honest. Starts off with a 9,000 power swing at lead, just trying to test the hand. With 1 Dawn as active, a Dead Man's Game would be able to get out of the swing. But with the plethora of counter in your hand with 3 different 2Ks, you might just go 2-1 to get out of it. Right, 2-1 would be able to get you to 10,000 power. And so is going to go 2 with the Kiku Nojo and 1 with the Kid Killer. Get out of that swing. I think Luffy can be favored. And so is going to go 10,000 power now at lead. Is going to be able potentially to survive. The Nami could swing at this point. That's something that this Mihawk has to think about. Right? Nami only being a 6,000 power character, there's still 10 Dawn up as active. And so is going to go ahead, take that final life. Tashigi in the hand is going to not be enough, it feels like. And so is maybe thinking of resting 3 Dawn. Is going to go ahead and rest 6 Dawn for Gum Gum Redhawk. Bottom deck, the Law and Beppo. Still has 6 Dawn open, passing off the turn. Still has a blocker on the field. Still leaving 4 Dawn open, 1 blocker. Means that you can get yourself out of Dead Man's Game if Mihawk decides to play it on this turn. Kid Killer does restand Dawn, but he didn't utilize it. But it only is on opponent's attack, lucky. So I guess maybe gauging that with the Kid Killer on the field, there could be some secret event in hand, right? A plus 4,000 power counter event, a plus 3,000 Dead Man's Game. So playing the safer route, he feels like at this point. And I feel like if Mihawk doesn't win it here, I feel like there's a pretty good shot that UP Luffy will just go for game. And so Perona now looking at attaching 2 Dawn, potentially 2 Perona, go in with 8s. Luffy, being a 6,000 power leader again, is going to force something like a Gear 2 or a Gum Gum Giant. I think is just trying to grab multiple cards right now. I think Blue Purple Luffy in a pretty good spot with a blocker, 4 Dawn active, and 1 life still, is going to go ahead with the 1. And Gum Gum Giant, trying to draw maybe a little bit more natural counter, is going to find a Sanji and an Otama. The Otama at least has counter. Sanji not going to do anything for you on this defensive side, but be a Gum Gum Giant target. And so Dead Man's Game now coming in to arrest 2 Dawn. And going to do another Dead Man's Game. So going to use 2 consecutive Dead Man's Games with the rest of the 8 Dawn to be able to then use leader effect to restand 2 Dawn and now swing 3 7s. Can 3 7s, or I'm sorry, a 6 and 2 7s potentially. Can that get him there? This was a risky play. And so a 6,000 power swing at lead with Perona, just a 1k Bond Clay to get out of it. 7,000 power with the Perona is going to be a 2k from the Otama or the Usohachi. And he gets out of this one, so is going to get out of this turn alive, getting out of the final swing with the Usohachi. Now Luffy going into his leader effect before he swings in with all of those swings. So now is going to be going in, drawing a card for turn. 9,000 power at lead. 2k, 2k, 1k to get out of that one. Only 2 cards in hand. Swinging in with the Roger is going to win. Blue Purple Luffy going to be moving on to our finals. I think what the Mihawk did is I think he knew he was in huge trouble. So he just I think his best shot was to just hope that Luffy had no counter in hand. Unfortunately, that didn't work though. Yeah, great job by the Luffy to use Gum Gum Giant first and get value out of some of his Dawn. And be able to potentially draw more counter for if there were Dead Man's Games. I think UP Luffy is a pretty solid pick.